Get ready with me and let's talk about why I do not date Korean boys anymore. And if you're a Korean boy, just keep scrolling. Let me just say that I've been gatekeeping this information, but I know that you guys really want to know, and let me tell you, I've dated many boys, most of them being Korean. Okay, so first of all, you're probably into Korean men because you like K-pop or K-dramas, and I really hate to break it to you, but that is just pure fantasy. Guys from K-dramas and K-pop do not exist in real life. And when I was younger, I thought I was gonna go to Incheon airport and then just run into EXO. Honestly, when you just haven't experienced it for yourself, you can be a little delulu. I love my country so much, but I honestly do believe that we are like 10 years behind the United States for like social issues. Like if you think the patriarchy is bad in the West, just go to Korea and find out for yourself. There's some crazy statistics I've learned in college, but most Korean men have paid money for prostitution. And I think that's just disgusting, and I don't fuck with that. And on a similar topic, they're just not the best in bed. Also, Korean guys just have a problem with feminism. I remember I was on a date with a Korean American guy and I asked him, "Are you a feminist?" And he was like, "No, I wouldn't necessarily call myself a feminist." And I was like, "Oh, so you don't support women's rights?" And he was like, "Oh, no, I support women's rights, but I don't know if I would be a feminist." Boy, do you even know what feminism is? Most Korean boys do not understand consent. Most Korean guys will think it's okay to take a drunk girl from the club and take her to a motel. And that is exactly why ladies in Korea are strongly encouraged to not get hella drunk at Korean clubs, because someone will take advantage of you. Yes, their faces resemble your favorite K-pop stars, and you can call them oppa. They're also racist and homophobic. Don't hate the messenger, because I wish they were better too.
I waited for 3.5 years. White man did it in 1 week. I waited for 3.5.
So I see a lot of comments that are going, we need to have this conversation. Our people would never be free. Why do XYZ women always do this? Speaking from my personal experience, a lot of men of color can be very disrespectful to their female counterparts. Black men comes to mind. Asian dudes, commonly, they either like, "Oh, I bet you're with a white dude," or "Oh, you look like my cousin, no thanks." So yes, do we need to have a conversation about it? Why not? But we can have that conversation and make it about white supremacy instead of just blaming the women for dating evil white men all the time. Just saying.
Story time on why I don't date Korean men. I refused to date Korean men for a very long time, and I've known since elementary school that I probably wouldn't end up marrying a Korean man. So obviously, we're here to talk about it. Let's get deep and set the tone. I absolutely love my dad. He is the best dad ever, but for a long time, I don't think he was the best partner or husband to my mom. A lot of Korean men today were raised by stereotypical Korean values, which are really conservative. So they are the next generation, but they still hold similar values whether they know it or not. A lot of this has to do with why my parents got divorced. My mom is not your typical Korean ajumma. This is also my mom, by the way, when she was in her 20s. She is fun. I mean, she's crazy. She can drink more than I can. She can party harder than I can, but she also takes all my sexy bikini photos. My dad at that time was a typical strict Korean dad. At the end of the day, he wanted my mom to do the old school thing. Stay home, cook, clean, and serve. Just as his mom served his dad. I mean, in my grandparents' era, women couldn't do anything. My grandma could not eat until my grandpa finished his meal. Women in those days only served, and my dad, and a lot of your dads who are probably immigrants as well, expected the same treatment from their wives. Obviously, times have changed, but now Korean women are expected to cook, clean, serve, and make money. We live in a really equal time, so I'm just not gonna let a man tell me what I can and can't do, so I don't think I'd personally be compatible with a Korean man. Unless he was a little bit of a beta or a third, fourth generation American. Oh my god, Anne is not a mommy's boy, because those Korean mother-in-laws terrify me.
It's internalized racism. Like, the only person you're fooling is yourself. This is a good example of the difference between a reason and a justification, though, right? Because a justification is when you give evidence for something that you already want to believe. And that's what you did. You kind of searched your experience for negative experiences with Korean men in order to reinforce the decision that you already made to not date Korean men. And to be honest, people with internalized racism, they shouldn't date anybody. They shouldn't even date interracially. Because you may very well have a son, and your son will be Korean, and he's going to have to deal with the trauma that you haven't worked on.
I saw this video from this Korean content creator, and she just came forward about how she is reluctant to date Korean men, how growing up in an extremely traditional and misogynistic household shaped her to feel that way about Korean men, and that pissed off a lot of men. And so in turn, a lot of men stitched her video saying that she had internalized racism, and the reason why she has all this internalized racism is because she's singling out Asian men for their misogyny, even though misogyny exists in every other culture everywhere else. I also saw some male content creators that I really enjoyed give some pretty disappointing answers too. Surprise, surprise, the majority of the stitches to that video were incredibly unempathetic, and that is because the majority of men don't take misogyny seriously. You can never really have an honest conversation about dating preferences, especially in the Asian community, because every time Asian women bring up valid reasons as to why they're reluctant to date Asian men, typically because of misogyny, the vast majority of Asian men respond in this inane and stupid game of whataboutism. They don't deny the existence of misogyny in Asian culture. Also don't address how much internalized misogyny that they might have had growing up in these misogynistic households and cultures. They don't want to do the work. So what do they do instead? They deflect, they blame. Their argument becomes, what about white men? What about black men? What about Hispanic men? Aren't they misogynistic too? Is it any different for us? That's why this collective conversation about Asian dating preferences can never happen.
Next take, dating a white guy.
Oh, God. I don't really like talking about racial preferences. It's a very complicated topic and people have very strong feelings about it. Yeah, it's hard to talk about it on the whim without sounding problematic. I totally understand where a lot of our racial preferences can come from, the representation that we see in Hollywood. People want to know about like my own preferences all the time. And they're like, are you only into white guys? And like, no, but seeing that I'm dating a white man obviously doesn't help my case.
For the record, you were looking to try to get by Bao.
Well, yes. What's yours then? Put you on the spot.
I'm into like everyone, but a recent track record has been
nerdy white guys.
Yeah, tall, lanky, nerdy, glasses.
I like everyone too. I was really into a white guy once. What I would fear is that people didn't think I was being a good part of the community by dating a white guy.
Oh, I totally feel that. I don't want to perpetuate this like stereotype that like Asian men are only interested in dating white men, because most of my friends are actually like sticky, like they're Asians dating Asians. It's just a kind of like an unnecessary jab at the individual, because like, why does it matter ultimately? If you want to talk about racial preferences within our community, sure, but at the individual level, like that's none of your business, you know? We can talk about systemic issues without attacking the individual. We can all do some good in like expanding our preferences, diversifying the kind of media that we consume, especially the kind of porn that we watch. It's an individual journey that's going to take time. Going after someone for it is not going to help anyone's cause.
You see this happen a lot online to like famous Asian cis women.
Correct.
Who date white men. The whole swath of like the API community, particularly straight
comes
men.
down on them, yeah.
Yeah, comes down on them.
Now I think the discussion also needs to like expand to like, well, what about Black, Latino, you know, and incorporating them into our spaces as well. And so they're important discussions to have, but you don't need to attack individuals for it. We can always work towards making things better without being nasty.
I don't mind white men fetishizing me like a little bit, because I literally fetishize white men back. Like if I fulfill a white man's fantasy of like colonizing my country and like having me be this like super submissive Asian person, which I am, the white man also fulfills my fantasy of like dating a super hot manly dude that I see in movies and TV.
This guy's an interesting specimen because everyone talks about Asian fetishization, but let's acknowledge that there is white fetishization as well. And it has a lot to do with social hierarchy, colonization, the historical issues with lack of representation in the media that really affects the way we grow up as people of color.
Especially when I was growing up as a kid, seeing people get into these really fun, loving relationships with the really hot dude at school who happens to be white.
Exactly, like what I said. This is why representation is so important. We've been seeing so much progress over the last couple years with movies like Beef, with the new Joyride movie that's out right now, Crazy Rich Asians, you name it, Bling Empire. There's been so much Asian representation, which really showcase the sexuality of Asian men and show people that Asian men can be sexy. And this is why it's harmful when we have lack of representation. We start having self-hate. We start saying things and doing things and acting on things that actually harm the community and harm people and perpetuate an ongoing stereotype that actually hurts us because we're so conditioned in our mind to believe that we are less than. And this needs to change. The most important thing is you have to acknowledge that there's a problem here. Instead of going with the whole mentality, if you can't beat them, join them, because it sounds like that's what's happening here. If you can't fit in, just join in mentality. You cannot do that. You have to be better. If you want to educate, inspire, and motivate people, you have to do better.
White mixed is just, I love it. My racial ranking would, I guess, go to white guys. I like them, a lot of them like me, whatever. East Asian used to be my, last. They used to be the bottom tier for me because I am East Asian and I'm like, why would I want to date someone that looks like me? And I got bored of seeing so many East Asians. But recently I started to like them, and I mean, mainly when they're mixed with white.
You're pretty much saying that you have to be more passing to be accepted and to be desired and be wanted. You are doing to our community what has been done to you. You are creating exclusion, not inclusion. And it makes you just as racist, if not even more racist. Just because you're Asian or you're a person of color doesn't mean you cannot be racist. Yes, you can. These comments and the things you're saying is very racist. Because why can't you be mixed with Black or Latino or any other ethnic background? Why does it have to be mixed with white? What is it about that makes you think makes them better if they're that? You literally just insulted everyone that's watching your video that is of a different ethnic group. Many Asian Americans just want to belong. They want to fit in. They want to feel good enough. And this is where that model minority myth came from. It came from being invisible, not being heard. Times has changed now. People are speaking up and making a difference. But unfortunately, some of us still fall victim to this.
I'm really into colonization. I almost wish I was there when my home country was being colonized by, I think, the Dutch. I just mean in a fun, sensual, way, you know?
There's nothing sexy about colonization. Why would you romanticize that? You can have all the fantasies you want, but understand what you're putting out there can harm a lot of people. You seem to be very conditioned by media, society, lack of representation. There is nothing more sexy and attractive than loving yourself and being proud of your heritage, your culture, your language, where you came from, the root of who you are. You can love whoever you want. You can date whoever you want. You can have any preference you want, but you don't have to reject people. A preference is something you like, not what you don't like. A lot of times when we talk about our preferences, we dismiss people and other people, make them feel less than, as if you're more superior because you choose to date someone who is a non-person of color. There's so many beautiful people of all types of races and background, whether you're Hispanic, Black, Asian, Middle Eastern, white, wherever you came from, there's beauty in every race. And learning to celebrate others is a lot more attractive than dismissing people. Having a preference is not an excuse for being racist. Internalized racism is real and it runs rampant within our community, right? We always talk about other people being racist towards us, but what about us being racist towards ourselves? If anything, that's the worst. Acknowledging the internalized racism and the self-hate is the first step to doing better, because I can definitely see it here. It's written all over. There's nothing more attractive than loving yourself and being proud of who you are. If you want your man or whoever you're with to love you and respect you, you gotta love and respect yourself first.
Can we normalize liking white guys?
You are being such a pick-me. Liking white guys is normalized. What we're trying to normalize is liking Asian guys, because that has not been normalized in society because of lack of representation. Because historically, Asian men has been emasculated for centuries. We are fighting our asses off for representation. We are doing our best to put our sexuality out there so people see that we can be sexy and attractive. And again, you can date whoever you want, love whoever you want, but don't dismiss others.